Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Somewhere between science and superstition.
We have such sights to show you.
Strange Eons.
Welcome to Strange Eons Radio. That's Vanessa, somewhere maybe above or below me.
Hi.
And that's Eric, the other person in this three-band
Hey there.
person.
How y'all
thing.
doing there?
The Brady Bunch, but less.
Just half of them. Hey, gang, we're here because we're doing a little intro for our live show, which we recorded at Crypticon Seattle 2024. I will just put this out there. It was lightly attended. Not the biggest audience we've had for one of these shows.
It was quality over quantity. Let's just say that.
I haven't heard full numbers. I know the vendors, every vendor I talked to was pretty happy, so that's always a good sign.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they all were, but the ones I talked to. And then
I was saying our live show was lightly attended, not the con. The con seemed packed to me.
Yeah, I say, did you not hear the applause in the promo thing I put out today?
I did. That is not the real applause. Yeah, it was my worst fucking nightmare as far as these live shows go. And if this had happened the first time we did this, I would have said never again. We had 5 people there, and we knew 3 of them.
And one of the guys we know the best there didn't show for most of it. So, it's like, hey, come on, where are you? But, we were opposite the From Beyond panel.
Right,
So,
which was packed. I saw pictures of that, and it was jam-packed.
I mean, and we had all 3 of the major stars there. So it was just, weird. And then I forgot what the other one was, but somebody said there's another really popular thing. I don't think it was the singing we could hear, which thankfully did not show up on our recording.
Oh, good.
I was pretty sure it wouldn't, but that was annoying.
That was a lot. That was a lot to deal with. The quality of our responses during that episode are going to be a little bit interesting because we often were like, that's a catchy tune. I think I know it. And it's permeating my brain and slightly shaking me from below.
Yeah, it turned out there was a live musical performance going on in the courtyard while we were recording, and it was very distracting, but I think we soldiered through fairly well. Yeah. In fact, I think we soldiered through fairly well on our topic, which was the Howling, considering that there were only a few people there. Carlos showed up, John O'Bannon showed up, Seth Sherwood showed up, which was a real pleasure to me, except he did just show up because he knew I always bring scotch to the panel. But I'll just say this, the show was so lightly attended, I poured scotch for everybody in the audience, too. So
that did occur.
Speaking of that, one of the guys you poured a drink for bought us some pizzas after the show. Thank you, James. That was much appreciated, which was wild because this was somebody that we didn't know from like regular life. So it was great to have somebody that like that attend.
Yeah.
James was super cool, and I had brought a copy of my upcoming novel, The Secret Language of Spiders, to give out as a giveaway with like some trivia or something. But since he had shown up and said that he was a fan of the show, I was like, James, I'm just going to give you this book. And he was very grateful. So that was really cool.
And I ran into him the next morning. And he said, that damn Kelly Young and his stupid book kept me up all night long reading the whole thing and loving all of it. So
that is so amazing. And he wrote a nice post on the Strange Eons Radio Talk about everybody should pre-order it. Pre-orders are up right now on Amazon, and I will have pre-orders for the physical copy on writtenbyklyoung.com. So you're going to hear the live show coming up next, and I don't know that we need to say much more about that. We chose the Howling because Joe Dante was in attendance. I did complain to Eric later that maybe I didn't want to do live shows anymore. And we came up with a solution of maybe we just do our regular show as a live show. So there's not as much research going into it that, goes into these kind of deep dives on the live show topic.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
seemed a lot more doable to me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
No, that sounds like a great idea. And, then people can just come in for the experience of it, you know?
Exactly right. Maybe we see if there is a special guest director there, and we all just pick a film from that director or something like that. And then we just do our thing. We bring the timer in. We give them the whole show, something like that. That sounds more fun to me.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Eric, what was your favorite part of the festival?
The film festival went really, really well. Our as usual, the Northwest blocks on Friday were insanely well attended. It's always fun because we're a convention. This isn't a theater. You don't get the awesome Egyptian like the Bone Bat or the Hollywood Theater at Lovecraft or anything like that. It's just a room in a hotel, and we had 81 filmmakers sign up to come and see their
Wow.
movie show. So I was like,
Wow.
holy shit. So those are always fun. And then I had a personal cool thing that I really enjoyed, and that was getting Severin to be part of the convention and bringing them in and getting them a booth. And they had a table, and they had a great time. Really enjoyed the people that they worked with there, and the Steve in the panel room and the vendor hall. And they're probably going to be back next year. And we've talked a little bit about maybe upping the stakes of what they do. So I'm looking
Oh,
forward to
cool.
that possibility.
Ooh.
And paneled again for the first time. Usually maybe I'll do one a year. This year I did like 5 or 6. It's like,
Yeah,
that's fun.
it is fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to share your insight and your scotch, in my case.
It's
Yeah.
true.
I'll take some.
Vanessa, you were there for a short time. What was your
Yes.
favorite part?
There were really only two things that happened while I was there. And they were both great. So our panel was spectacular. I had just enough time to have my baby watched in order for me to get to the convention, do our panel, and then at a little window, and then leave the convention.
Yeah.
So, but I will say, getting drinks with you guys after, even though Eric was a little MIA, like it was really fun. It was nice to just relax and hang out for a minute. So,
My favorite thing was you were like ready to get out of there as soon as the panel was done. I was like, you can't have one drink with us. I'm like the king of peer pressure. It brought me back to my high school days. And you were like, I can have one drink. And then like 3 hours later, you were like, I really, really have to go now.
That's right.
yeah. And it was funny too. Well, I mean, part of the reason it was 3 hours later is because we had very poor service. And I was like, I'm getting my drink. And like it took about an hour just to get the drink. But
That's
it
true.
was still it was fun. It was nice. And I texted and it turned out that my daughter took a really nice long nap. So I was like, okay, it's cool. There's
Perfect.
not like
Could have left her alone.
Yeah, it was
Well, maybe not alone, but with another
not
person.
alone.
yeah.
Well, part of the problem or bonus, depending on how you want to look at it, is we had a guy who had a short film screening who flew in from Spain
Yes.
for his first visit ever to the United States was to come see his show or his short play at Crypticon Seattle Film Festival. So I'm like, he wanted to sit down and have a drink. I'm like, maybe I should do that. And he was a pretty nice guy. He was a fun
great
to talk
guy.
to.
I
Yeah.
spoke with him for a long time. His name was Carlos. I made sure to rub this into my buddy Carlos's face to say that I had met a Spaniard named Carlos, and his English was amazing. And Carlos then proceeded to tell me how horrible most of the Spaniards are and all of this stuff. So it had the
Oh my
desired
God.
effect.
Jeez Louise.
How about you,
Yeah,
Kelly?
Oh,
sorry.
well, my favorite part of any of these conventions, I don't love conventions, but I do love the people that I love. I don't love people, But the people that I love, I really love, and sometimes I only get to see them once a year, and this is that convention. So, John O'Bannon came up. That was really nice. He's one of my favorite people. I was best man at his wedding. The jokes that we all have is really special to me. They're all filthy, so I can't share them. But
That's fair.
so yeah, just hanging out with people. Joseph Scrimshaw showed up, who I met a couple years ago at the Lovecraft Film Festival, and then met again at the Lovecraft Film Festival last year. And I just feel like we've become pretty good friends, and I love him. He's a super nerd, and he had a film in the film festival as well.
Yep.
And
Had a
uh,
JD come up for the first time, a guy I've known since like junior high.
I was just
Finally
gonna
attended.
say, Jamie likes to say he was in the room when you and I met. I'm like, that was not a momentous occasion, but thank you for trying to pretend it was.
Thank you, sir.
I love
Yeah.
Jamie, and I brought him up to the room, and we finished off my bottle of scotch and caught up, and that was lovely. Um, so yeah, most of my good memories at any convention is hanging out with people. We had dinner with Brian and Gwen from the Lovecraft Film Festival on Saturday night,
Mhm.
and that was really nice. And then we went up to the 13th floor and palled around with everybody up there. And it's just a good group of people, and it's so weird. It's at every horror convention. They're the most accepting fandom in the world, I think. They're just all
Yeah.
nice, friendly people.
Yep. Very true.
Yeah.
We did have another fun thing happen too. After having breakfast with Steve Hullitz, he decided he
Yeah,
would give us an award.
that's. I don't think that's why we got the award.
Oh, okay, cool. But we
Yeah,
Probably
won
because you guys earned it.
they presented, well, it was from our showing at the Bone Bat Film Festival, but they then had a showing of the best of Bone Bat at Crypticon.
Yeah.
And I thought there was going to be like an award ceremony with a bunch of filmmakers and all that stuff. Nope, just Eric and I, one award. It felt very awkward.
I
I
think the
was like,
others
well,
are
now I'm feeling really uncomfortable about this again.
I think the other was quite a ways away, the other filmmakers. But hey, it pairs well with our
our, our
Bone
2017
Bat
win.
package win. We get two of the
Yeah.
Bone Bat.
Ooh.
These are really cool awards because they're each one is kind of a unique thing. They have to etch that title in and then paint and do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
That's really a neat little award.
Yeah, they
That's
do
cool.
do a good job.
We should think about doing stuff like that for the Charles Dexter Awards. We should
Ooh.
we should think about it
I
and
was
then
gonna
go
say,
fuck no.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say
There's a lot of winners.
and the way we do the winners is a little weird. So find out the
What?
address of some random director that made the movie we like and just mail it to him. Hey, enjoy.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. Um, what else? Let's see. I skipped two of my panels that I was supposed to do just because one of them I wasn't exactly sure. I did no research on it, and I was like, I'm not sure how I ended up on this panel. And then the other one was Joseph Scrimshaw had just suddenly walked into the bar, and I was like, well, I can't just go now. And then I dragged Eric onto my only other panel, which was with Brian and Gwen, and they were talking about how hard it is to adapt Lovecraft to film. And at one point, as I figured they would, they ambushed us with our film, the thing on the
We
doorstep, which was fine. We actually kind of blew it up and said everything we didn't love about the film, which was a long litany of things.
yeah.
But then after that, so they had a slideshow on a TV going the entire time. So when they brought up our film, there's behind me a loop of a scene from our film, and then somebody raised their hand. This was a highly attended panel, and somebody had a question, and Brian just went off and started answering that question. Meanwhile, this loop of this film that I hate is just playing right next to me, and I was just like, "Fuck, I'm gonna have to drink a lot tonight to get over this." So, but I did, and I got over it.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's
Sounds
always
good.
hard to watch something that you made a couple years ago or many, many
Couple
years
of
ago.
yeah.
Yeah, it's always gonna be tough. And sometimes, I don't know, like I'll think, man, that was such a piece of crap, that thing I did. And then you sit down and you rewatch it and you're like, well, actually, there's like these good little interesting things that, wow, it's not as bad as I thought. So I don't know. It's healthy. It's healthy to look down on your previous work because you always want to achieve higher, but you
Yeah.
shouldn't be too mean about it.
So two things. There are some really nice shots and performances in our film, and I can admit that. Uh, Mostly, what I'm not happy about is my script. But and then the other thing is this, Eric. You said a few years ago. This is like this is the
I was
20th
like,
anniversary of us shooting
yeah,
that film.
right. Yeah. No,
That's kind of insane.
yes, that's wild. And of
Wow.
course, as director, I'll blame myself too. So, we all just work it out well.
Uh, yeah. Well, I've taken to drinking heavily to get past all of it. So.
Stop
Anything else we want to?
pretending like you need excuses for all your drinking heavy. Okay, everything is why you're drinking heavily. You woke up this morning is why you're drinking heavily.
I've been
Sorry.
sleeping really, really well lately, but that's because I've been drinking very heavily.
Good.
Oh, good.
Anything else we want to talk about Crypticon before we throw it to the live show?
I don't think
Come
so.
check it out from here. There's a lot of crazy crap that goes on. There's a lot of fun
Yeah,
panels and live events and live Rocky Horror Picture Show performance and the vendor room that the vendor group puts together is just amazing.
can't be
Yeah.
beat. Uh, I don't know if you guys felt the same way. Vanessa, did you even get a chance to walk through the vendors room this time? Ah, it was
No.
really artist heavy this time,
Yeah.
and everybody was great. I just kept walking by going, oh man, this is really great. And I was taking cards from everybody because I'm like, I got books coming up that's going to need some cover art. Eric,
Oh.
did you buy anything?
Uh, not this year. I
Oh,
was in and out really fast, unfortunately. Yeah, okay, and I also want to check on the Severin table to make sure they are having fun since I was so involved. But also like that there's a smaller room, the artist room that had just started up a couple years ago, and that's
yeah,
finally come into its own. I thought this was the first really good year for
Mm.
that room, which of course has our buddy Nick and
yeah,
Bob and a bunch of other people that we know that do good work. So I
yeah.
I
It
really like
it
the vendor room.
it was also highly attended. That's in fact where I took most of the business cards from because there were some really great artists in there. There were a number of authors in there that were selling their books and really cemented the idea that I am not going to show up and try to sell my books at a convention. It's heartbreaking. There's just not sales to be had there. So,
Speaking of books, I don't know. I have it right here. I
hmm.
do. Crypticon brought back its writers contest.
Oh
This time
yeah.
published an actual book of it right away. Do you
Nice.
know who won first prize?
Ooh.
Michael Falcone.
Mm.
Oh.
That's amazing. Michael Falcone has been the location manager on a couple of
Yeah.
our films. Now I wish I had picked that up. Where would you even buy that?
Amazon. It is available through Amazon now.
But I assume they were
Yeah.
selling it at the show.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So but yeah,
That's really cool.
first time back that is being put together. The guy I roomed with this year was put it together and ran it and did a pretty damn good job. So it's nice to see it return after many years.
No, that's very cool. I will look into that. They also had so out in the now, historically and maybe infamously, if you want a meal at the DoubleTree, you're dropping, $30 on a burger and a soda.
Uh-huh.
But they brought back the in the courtyard. They were making burgers for a while, and they were only like $15.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Only
Do
three
they
times as much as a burger should cost. But also in there was a chainsaw wood artist. Did you guys
Hmm.
see any of that stuff? Oh, Vanessa, you didn't see it, and I didn't take a picture of it. He had a full size Ninja Turtle out there that was amazing.
Oh, that sounds so cool. Ugh.
And I ended up talking to him, and he was a guy originally from Alaska, moved to Bellingham. I was raised in Bellingham. My stepfather was born and raised in Alaska, so I talked to him for a long time, and we really hit it off. He was really great. There's just so much to see at Crypticon. The weather kind of held off, so if you were there Friday, you got to do a tour outside of all the hearses and all of that stuff. It's just a really cool, fun festival.
Yeah. Although the weather did get there on Sunday, and a tree fell
Oh.
on a couple cars.
I saw that. It was literally right outside of Joseph's window, Joseph Scrimshaw. He sent me a picture of his original thing because when he shows up anywhere, he takes a picture of his view. And then he sent me a picture of it after the tree fell. And he was like, notice anything different? I was like, what did you do?
Luckily, no people were hurt, but
Yeah.
some cars
Yeah,
were.
that's kind of crazy. It was not a small tree.
No, it was huge.
Oh my God. That's unbelievable. Well, I'm so sad that I didn't get to spend more time there. But it's amazing seeing all the pictures that start showing up on social media of everybody having a great time. And hopefully next year I'll actually get to properly be there. So
I'll say this. If you're thinking about visiting from another state, do it. It's a blast. If you're here in Washington and you haven't visited and you're a horror fan, you're really missing out. And then the third thing to know is you want to get there for the weekend and you want to get there early on Friday if you're driving in, because the parking packs up and you will then be parking in these satellite lots and then having to get your way there. So that's
crazy.
one thing to consider.
Parking is the worst part about the whole thing. So I live close enough that this year I was able to take a Lyft, and it was the best decision I could have possibly made. So
very nice.
Yeah.
And it's not like they have a small parking lot. They've got a huge parking lot and then another huge parking lot in front. It's just this thing is starting to pack up.
Yeah. Yep. It's pretty wild.
So.
Yeah.
Well, all right, gang. Is that it then? Should we throw it over to the live show?
Yeah. Yeah.
Get the Howling
Great to see
going.
you guys. We got the Howling coming up for you next. Next week, we will be back with our regular programming, which is going to be spiders. But we'll be doing it as a Zoom call because our normal recording day falls on Mother's Day, and one of us is a real mother this year. Oh, it's you, Vanessa.
You beat me to the punchline. I was gonna say something about one of you. I was trying to eye it quickly enough and be like, which one can I pick out? Oh no, you got to me first. Dang it. Yeah, me and then my mom as well. So we always do she likes to go to the Red Lobster.
Oh.
So we all go to the Red Lobster.
Get the biscuit,
nice.
The Cheddar Bay.
Everybody's so into those. I think they're a little greasy, but you know what?
That's part of the charm.
That's just how it be. That's just what people love.
Yeah.
So so that'll be fun. And then after that we'll return to our in-person, knock on wood.
Gonna hold you to that, Vanessa.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for this Zoom call, and thanks to all the listeners and all that stuff. And here's the part where I say thanks for liking and sharing posts, because I don't say it at the end of the live show. And if you want to be a part of the value for value model, that just means if you find some value out of this, give some value back. That can be in the form of money, which we love, or in the form of liking and sharing posts, commenting on the YouTube videos. All of that stuff is value for us as well. So thanks again, guys. Enjoy the Howling, and we will see you next Thursday. Welcome to Strange Eons Radio. That's Eric over there.
Hello.
That's Vanessa over there.
Hello.
I'm Kelly. We are recording live at Crypticon Seattle 2024, and that means all 4 of you have to make some noise. Wow. Well, this is a lightly attended panel.
How much have you had to drink, Kelly, today?
First of all, Seth
In the last
is
hour?
responsible for part of it.
Well done,
Seth.
And it has been a lot. How's your guys' con going? Vanessa, you just got here.
I've been here 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I got to see a very good editor friend of mine who was here by accident for the first time ever, and he gave me a sticker. And then I saw a girl that I only ever see at Crypticon, and I gave her a hug, and now I'm here.
It's kind of the point of the con, right? Is to hang out with people you only get to see once a year.
100%.
Or once a week. Hey, Carlos.
Once a week.
Or Carlos.
Or for the first time ever.
Oh,
Hello.
James. Hey, guys. I have had a great con.
Have you?
Yeah.
Is that
The
why
way
you have not responded to my texts? It's
What?
fine.
I haven't even looked at my phone.
That's fair.
So I go to every con thinking I just want to hang out with the people I like and love, and I have been blessed to be able to do that this week, especially. So Carlos and I shared a couple of drinks very early this morning.
Well, that sounds about right.
Breakfast vodka is the best vodka.
You know my favorite breakfast cereal. Breakfast vodka.
And then I just kept it going. I was able to sit down with Seth and Lisa Ovies, and now with you guys, I've poured a little bit of the Westward Stout cask. I believe Bob Hale gave this
Good
to us
stuff.
when
Good
we
stuff, yeah.
hit our 200th episode or something like that.
Aw.
Got our 300th
So-
episode coming up.
Thanks, Bob. I assume it tastes
And this
good.
is just about done, Bob. So yeah, if you want to kick in. So this episode,
My con's been fine, thanks.
if you haven't listened to our episode, this is not how we normally do our podcast. Normally, we pick a subgenre, and then each of us picks a film from that subgenre, and then we talk about it. And that is not what we do when we come to Crypticon.
Nope.
For the last couple of years, we have done John Carpenter movies.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just always going to be our MO.
Same here. I have so many John Carpenter shirts I can't wear today.
But then Eric suggested, because the big guest here is Joe Dante, that we attack The Howling.
What do you see?
The Howling. Somewhere in this city, in this human jungle, it begins.
Just try. He's right there.
What do you see?
What's there, Karen?
What do you see, Karen?
What's there?
Somewhere in these woods, in this primal, sensuous, secret place, lies an experience too terrifying for words. And now, all anyone can do is watch and wait.
Tonight I'm going to show you something. Make you believe.
The Howling.
Give it a shot.
Yeah.
Next year, there's a guest that's in the line that I can't say yet. If we get, we're definitely doing representative that too.
What?
Not John Carpenter.
Oh, fuck. Eric.
I was like, my heart. I am literally hurting right now. I was like, how did you get him away from Sonic the Hedgehog and like basketball? Because I want to know your secrets.
So, because we are talking about The Howling, here's what I'm going to assume. You've all seen the movie The Howling. So, what I'm going to do to start us off is talk a little bit about the Howling novels, the Howling trilogy, written by Gary Brandner. So, okay, the first movie, The Howling, is, of course, based on the novel of the same name, The Howling, written by one Gary Brandner. Brandner was, at various times, an amateur boxer, bartender, surveyor, loan company investigator, advertising copywriter, and technical writer. At the age of 45, he wrote his first novel, The Aardvark Affair. You guys big fans of The Aardvark
I love
Affair?
it. Aardvark
Sure,
is great.
whatever that is, I'm
Cool.
good for that.
The Aardvark trilogy, not as well known. In 1977, he wrote his fourth novel at the age of 47, which was The Howling. So that means in 2 years, he wrote 4 novels. He sold the film rights immediately and had nothing more to do with the film.
Mm-hmm.
The novel sold pretty well, and Brandner was asked by his publisher for a sequel. And in 1978, this is still 3 years before The Howling is released, he released The Howling 2, also known as Return of the Howling, which is incredibly campy and very cool, in my opinion. Pleases me greatly. So when Joe Dante got the chance to direct The Howling, he brought his Piranha scriptwriter, John Sayles, over, and they threw out the screenplay that was written by Terrence Winkless, which was a fairly faithful adaptation of the source novel. And they tossed out pretty much everything in the book except for the title, The Howling, and the lead protagonist's name, Karen. And one other thing, and this is important.
Okay.
It kind of revolutionized the werewolf subgenre. The idea that werewolves would live or travel in packs.
Oh, interesting.
So prior to this, I think Gary Brandner should absolutely be credited for bringing this idea to contemporary horror. Prior to this, the werewolf is a tortured individual, right, who has to deal with this monthly curse, and they lock themselves away. Not that monthly curse, Vanessa.
Hey now. It's not a curse,
I
it's a
don't call it
blessing.
Okay.
So
Yay.
Brandner introduced the idea of not just a community, but an entire town full of werewolves, like a pack of wolves.
I have a side question as far as the pack goes.
Yeah.
Isn't it about the Wolfens kind of did that too, didn't it? Whitley Strieber's book did that.
The Wolfen is not werewolves.
It's just wolves. Okay.
It's Wolfen. They have they're just super intelligent wolves with thumbs. Exactly
Thumbs
right.
And cool vision.
Obviously, Seth knows.
And cool, pretty vision.
That movie is unfortunately not as cool as the source novel. This movie is somehow better than the source novel. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences. So first off, I'll just note that this book is far grimmer than the movie is. None of the satire and humor that Joe Dante brought to it. It begins with a fairly brutal rape scene, Vanessa. Your favorite thing. And I don't think that you like rape, but I know that you like watching it.
Oh my God.
And because you know it's a book about werewolves, you assume that the person who is raping our protagonist is going to be the werewolf? No, just some random dude who rapes her in like 3 pages of very graphic detail.
It's a really strong way to start a book.
Yeah. It's super uncomfortable. It's like, ugh.
Wait, Seth, you said you like this book? Okay, fair.
After that segment.
Gotcha.
It
Excellent.
is.
No, it's all good.
It is. So this simple, random, violent assault sets Karen, same as in the movie, and her husband Roy, who is Bill in the film, because Dante wanted to name everybody after old filmmakers that he loved.
Okay.
It sends them off on a journey to find a quiet place to get away for a while. So in the book, Karen is just a housewife. She's not a newscaster or a reporter, so she's home alone when this assault happens. The man also strikes her in the stomach, and she miscarries her baby.
Oh my God.
Good Lord.
Super fun times in the first 10 pages of this book.
Smart choices were made in making this into a movie.
Jeez Louise.
So Karen and Roy head to the little town on the coast called Drago, and things just proceed to get weirder and weirder. One of the things from the book that Dante did keep in was the inclusion of the seduction of Karen's husband, Roy, by a werewolf woman. But she's not the biker-clad woman from the movie. Also, there's none of the hippy-dippy commune feeling that Dante used so perfectly to skewer that lifestyle. That's not in the book. I think that definitely works for what Dante wanted to do, which was kind of point a satirical lens at self-help groups and that kind of stuff. But Brenner's got some interesting observations on small towns and how inherently creepy they can be. And he might have just needed to get his protagonist into a place she was uncomfortable with. So here's the thing. Gary Brandner, rest in peace, not the best writer in the world. Certainly not in 1977. I've read a lot of his books, and they do get better and better, but this book is not very well written. So all of the stuff that happens in the book kind of correlates with things that do happen in the movie, but the end of the book has Karen and a friend she has called up, locking all of the werewolves, including her transformed husband Roy, in a building and fleeing the town, the entire town of which is caught up in a huge conflagration that's sweeping through the woods. But as they leave, they can hear from all around them the howling. It's kind of a Richard Matheson I Am Legend kind of title because it's the last line in the book, and it's I don't know. It's very cool. I digged it. It's a short novel, as you can see, which I appreciate, and it does cook right along. But Gary Brandner is no Stephen King, and his characters are mostly
But is he a Kelly Young?
one-dimensional.
I don't think he's even that good.
Far surpasses a Kelly Young. So I'm going to turn this over to Vanessa, who is actually going to discuss the movie and Joe Dante.
Absolutely. So I'm going to jump into how we normally format the show and talk a bit about the film itself and Mr. Dante. So The Howling came out in 1981. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 74% from critics and 60% from audience. But that's okay because the budget was $1.5 million and the box office was $17.9 million.
Holy cow.
Wow.
It did good. It's starring Dee Wallace, who has 277 credits to her name as TV reporter Karen White. She was in The Hills Have Eyes, E.T., Cujo, Alligator 2, The Mutation, Rock-a-Doodle, 48 episodes of The New Lassie, and regularly does between 5 to 10 projects a year. This woman works. Christopher Stone plays her mustachioed husband. He has 86 credits to his name, and it turns out he also is her real-life husband at this point, still mustachioed. Who he also starred in Cujo, 48 episodes of The New Lassie, as well as 75 episodes of Days of Our Lives. Patrick McNee as Dr. George Wagner, the cult leader / therapist, 175 credits to his name, 161 episodes of The Avengers as Basil. He was in Waxwork and A View to Kill. And this I didn't know until I was on IMDb. Robert Picardo, the doctor from Voyager, as Eddie, the kind of serial killer that they are following at the very beginning of this movie. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It was kind of cool thing. So this was directed by Joe Dante. He has 41 directing credits to his name. And a little bit about Joe. He was born in Morristown, New Jersey. His father was a professional golfer who encouraged him to play sports, but he was more interested in drawing cartoons and going to the Saturday matinees as cinema instead. He planned to become a cartoonist, but was told that wasn't a real art form and he should try something else. So while attending the Philadelphia College of Art, he found himself falling into filmmaking. In his free time as a student, he assembled The Movie Orgy, an epic collection of B-movie clips, 16-millimeter films, cartoons, commercials, and trailers into a 7-hour compilation. In the 1970s, he had a stint as a film reviewer before beginning an apprenticeship under Roger Corman, where he was offered a job in the trailer cutting department for New World Pictures. In 1975, he moved into directing and made the satirical exploitation film Hollywood Boulevard, based on a bet that Roger Corman made, where he said he would try to do the cheapest film he could for New World in under 10 days. It was mostly made up of Corman's other works. So cool. 2 years later, he did Piranha, and then in the 1980s, collaborated with John Sayles to work on The Howling. So that's when we jump into the film itself. I will say, just after The Howling,
We need a timer.
You're doing just fine, Vanessa.
I can be done, okay? I can be done.
Talk as long as you want to.
You had like 5 pages.
I know.
All right. After The Howling, just so we, keep abreast of him, he went on to do Gremlins and Gremlins 2, Inner Space, The Burbs, Matinee, Small Soldiers, and Looney Tunes Back in Action. The last took such a toll on him, he stopped working in film until 2009 when he returned to direct The Hole. He's also done quite a bit of TV work, including 5 episodes of Erie and Indiana, 10 episodes of Splatter, and recently, 10 episodes of Hawaii Five-0. He also produces a critically acclaimed webisode / mobile phone series called Trailers from Hell. So that's Joe Dante.
Mobile phone series?
That's what it described it as. I did not look it up. So maybe it's evolved into a podcast. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah. Or a YouTube series.
I have a couple of things about Joe Dante that I wanted to talk about that pertain to The Howling.
Mm.
This is from my IMDb trivia.
Oh, good.
So
I'm
who
glad
knows?
somebody looked it
Who
up
knows if this can be
The
trusted or not?
best source on.
on the internet. So
It says
true.
director Joe Dante has been very critical of the book that this movie is based on. He did many interviews talking about how the book wasn't much good and how they had improved the story with the movie. One day, at the Hollywood Scriptwriting Institute for a lecture, Dante started talking and bad-mouthing the book, and a man raised his hand from the audience and said, "So you don't like the book, huh?" And Dante answered, "Well, no, not really." To which the man in the audience replied, "Because I wrote that book." So this is why you got to be nice in those interviews. Also, the way that the movie ends with the shooting of
Karen
D. Wallace,
White.
Karen,
Yeah.
in the studio, I've always hated that.
Oh,
I hate the way that she transforms into kind of a Ewok looking thing, and she's cute, and I
Yeah.
understand why they did that, but I didn't like it. I'm half convinced because the second book, The Howling 2, was already out, that D. Wallace put that into her contract because she didn't want to be in a sequel for a werewolf movie or something like that. And I'll even say that if she had turned into a scary looking werewolf, that would have made me love the end. If she had started going, and
Yeah.
instead of the tears and everything.
Yeah, why was she so cute? I don't know. Maybe Eric
The
will talk
point
about
of
this.
that was because she was supposed to be shown as she is a good person, and so she turned
She's a
into
good werewolf.
a Pomeranian or something
Okay.
like that. But
It's a very weird choice.
but yeah, so those are the notes I have on the end of the film.
cool.
Eric, would you
Yes,
like
yeah.
to?
Oh,
I know
yeah.
you've got a section that you really wanted to.
The effects of this movie are part of the reason it was such a hit, and part of the reason it's so well known is the effects. The description in the script that led to these effects was turns into werewolf. So
Wow.
they had a lot to work with. Probably the most famous transformation scenes would be like you've got the as it progresses, the original Wolfman change, which was basically put some hair on, cut, come back, put some more hair on, cut, come back.
Yeah.
The most famous werewolf scene has got to be American Werewolf in London. Maybe, probably, and best, I would say. And Kelly's done. He says, "I'm leaving, man."
Where did Kelly go? All right.
Using almost all the effects you possibly could to make a transformation scene for that one. The big thing of this, I'd say the Howling sits as very easily in that third, fourth round of one of the best transformation scenes. And it's largely due to bladder effect, which was fairly new at that time, but not completely new. The transformation starts in uncut version where he pulls a bullet out of his head. And I was reading that going, "Oh, that sounds grim." And then I saw that, and the young guy's like, "Oh, well, that really? Why the hell did you cut that?" It's just like, dig, don't, done. I mean, it's like almost that long. It's like, okay, whatever. But anyways, his face is covered in the bladder effects to make it glow. And what the bladder effects do is you put them under cover thing and you add air into them essentially and just pump them in, out, up, down. They do all kinds of weird shit. As the scene progresses, the head gets they use a fake head, which really hurts the scene. It looks pretty good when it's his real head, but the eyes they're just dead. They're just, you can tell that's not a real person, and it really hurts the transformation. But that's okay. And the other transformation I wrote here is D. Wallace is a little too cute.
It's a little too cute.
I think we can all agree on that.
In an interview on the recent released Blu-ray disc, Rob Bottin looks kind of like a werewolf. There's actually an interview with him from that time. He's got hair down to below his shoulders. He's got a full beard going up the cheeks. And I was like, wow, that is inspiration for what you were working on. Oh, yeah, and big old open hairy chest thing going on.
Perfect.
Very, very well done. And Joe Dante, of course, is wearing rose-colored glasses. But The Howling was in production alongside American Werewolf in London. So they both took their... people that say one ripped off the other, no, they didn't. Anything else to be closer, they probably worked together a little bit to make these happen between...
Wasn't Rick Baker originally? Yes. So
and then Rob took over when he went.
And he moved over to American Werewolf. Yeah. That's kind of crazy.
So they probably more likely worked together in some aspects. I can imagine them brainstorming. What are you going to do to make this werewolf thing happen? What are you going to do? But that seems more likely than them sitting in a I know what Rob's doing. Fuck him. I'm doing more of it. But they're similar, but they're distinct. So another weird aspect of the effects in this film that I didn't realize was as prevalent originally was David Allen's stop motion scenes, which stay in for about a second and a half. In the very end, when you see, or near the end, when you see three wolves standing after the car.
Right.
The whole scene in the barn where they set the barn on fire and start to burn them, he did that too.
Oh.
And the disc has that scene or parts of that scene kind of going, yeah, I know why this was cut from your movie, dude. It looks rough, and it's not entirely his fault. It was the way the final one is cut. It's very, as you would expect, close, dark, things happening really quickly. In the stop motion, it's like bright as hell, and it's the full bodies of the entire werewolves. It doesn't look great. It's good stop motion. It looks really bad in the context of this film, though. But David Allen also worked on stuff like The Hunger. I don't think he did stop motion there. Well, maybe. Dolls, Pre-Hysterical. So, yeah, he's interviewed too on there, and he comes across kind of like, I got paid. I'm good. Peter Caron handled the animated sequences, including the opening credits and stuff like that, and the werewolf transformation of Bill and Marcia mid-coital.
That scene looks so fake, and it might be my favorite scene in the movie.
It's pretty excellent, and it's like intercut with, I can't remember, but they keep coming back, and I'm like, yes, I need to see you guys keep trying to have sex by this fire. It's truly excellent.
I love it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really well done scene.
Yeah.
It almost feels like there was some uncomfortableness with it, so they added the fire in at certain times.
They did, yeah. I know.
Hey, Crocodile Dundee's join us.
I know for a fact that the actress who played Marcia, or is it Marcia or Marcia?
I think it's Marcia.
Marcia. She had no problem being nude in front of everybody, but her contract stipulated no nudity on screen.
Oh, it's like,
what?
I guess she sued them later on.
She was very unhappy with the final.
I didn't include her in the IMDb because she had so few credits.
Yeah.
So
probably because she's so
pissed
off after this
she was
film.
not happy with all of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's see, where was I? Peter Caron also worked on RoboCop and Nightbreed, so he's done some cool shit. Rick Baker, who was Dick Smith's assistant on The Exorcist, is where they kind of started using the bladder effects to much better impact, and use it in American Werewolf in London. I think it's used more subtly and better in American Werewolf in London. The bladder effects at times in this one are like, okay, pull him back just a little bit.
You're like, this is definitely a bag of air.
And his whole face going.
It's almost like a cauldron effect.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I kind of love it for that. It seems like the transformation in this is very painful.
Yeah.
Except that Eddie Quist, he's totally fine with it.
Yep.
That old man though who's like, please put me out of my misery.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, I get it, dude. This sucks.
Poutine also used bladder effects in The Thing, The Beast Within, little less known one, and Uninvited. We got some music going on. I don't know what the hell is going on.
It's very
out
distracting.
in the courtyard.
Some kind of concert of known music.
Let's see, where was I? There were times during the shooting when Robert Picardo was very despondent about the hours he had to spend in the makeup. On the special edition DVD, he remarks, one day after spending 6.5 hours in the makeup chair, I was thinking, trained at Yale, 2 leading roles on Broadway, my first acting role in California, my face gets melted into a low-budget horror movie. The crew's response that heard him say that, it's like, Bob, next time, read the whole script.
Oh, snap.
Like, oh, wow. And the Dee Wallace cute transformation was done in Joe Dante's office. That's why it's such a weird close-up angle.
Oh.
They'd run out of budget for any more locations to go back to the news studio, so he shot it in his office.
Interesting. Okay.
Huh.
But, The Howling, as we dove into this, I kind of felt there's less to talk about this than the average John Carpenter film.
Well,
Right.
and I have a question since you dug into the special effects.
Yeah.
The one thing that really stood out to me is how different each one was. I felt like I was watching a collage of concepts of special effects
Yes.
between the animation, the stop motion, the bladder effects, the stop and come back transformation with prosthetics. So, was there any rhyme or reason to why they just shotgunned effects at the screen?
Sorry, the singer that's going right now is not great.
I'm very interesting to listen to in comparison, it turns out.
No, I'm enjoying it. It's a nice little contrast. But where was I? Oh, they just kind of used what they thought would work for whatever the scene was.
Okay.
That's why they initially wanted full werewolves in the fire, so that's why they went with stop motion, because they couldn't afford full body makeups, which they obviously didn't use in the end. And when they did the werewolf stuff in the barn, it was not. There's no full body shots. It's all close up stuff.
Yeah. I actually love the mix.
Yeah.
I think that it grew on me as the film went on, but I did spend most of the film going, I mean, I was outside of myself. I wasn't in the story.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. They made this decision here or there. It just felt very piecemeal, and I didn't feel like I had a consistent idea of how werewolves function in this film, because sometimes they look just like people with bladder effects, and sometimes they look like full-blown giant wolves.
Right.
So it just, and then of course you throw the Chewbacca lady in at the end, and I was like, now I have no idea on this werewolf world.
I would think part of it, the thinking would be that an individual person will change into whatever werewolf
their personality
in their heart,
which is why Dee is adorable. Like you said, they wanted her to be
that is
not
the best
evil.
possible answer, and I'm sure it's not true, but I love it.
That's true. Filmmakers make terrible decisions while on set.
It's true. I mean, they just make the decision they have to roll with. And I'm sure that's what it was, but.
Well, listen, clearly Joe Dante is not going to swing in here while we're recording this. And
Promise me he would.
Doubt very much that he's going to be listening to this show. So I'll say this is not my favorite Joe Dante film. And quite honestly, it's not my favorite werewolf film. And it's not my favorite werewolf film from 1981.
True.
So,
Oh, God.
That's true.
So this is a movie that having watched again, I was able to really appreciate because of the hodgepodge of everything that went into it. And there's a sleaziness to this film that I really enjoy. It just feels, like 1980s New York, as always, kind of made me happy.
You may be
because
the only
I didn't
one.
live there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
but I love seeing stuff like that, and I ended up liking this movie at the end of this second or third rewatch more than I thought I did when I first saw it.
It kind of had the opposite effect of me. We do another podcast about Amityville Horror, and I remembered liking that movie. Then I watched it again and go, oh, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And Howling, I feel the opposite about, where it's like, I kind of remember, it's all right, except for there's those cool scenes that you always remember. They're going, well, this is better than I remembered it being. I'm kind of liking it this time around.
Yeah, it was definitely kind of interesting because there were certain things that I thought that they did really well between the characterization, where people had really cool, interesting personalities, even if they were only there for a second.
Yeah.
I just felt like they were extremely well written and well lived in. And also, I love how they took that original werewolf lore of the wandering husband and used it, and then literally used it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if a lot of people, I'm sure most people know that the werewolf concept in some ways came out of this sort of thing where guys would disappear in the night and they'd come back and the next day with claw marks, and they were like, I don't know what happened. Something overtook me in the woods. And the wives are like, okay. And they're like, it's a werewolf. That's what's become of me. I am a beast. I cannot control it. I must be gone X number of, nights a month. So,
I think once the full moon. Full moon. We'll go with full moon, guys. Come on.
And I love that they had the actual husband literally do that in this and have his cheating moment that way. I just felt like that was such a nice callback to the concept.
I wonder how much of that was intentional, and I say that absolutely unironically and honestly because John Sayles has written some fucking amazing movies and some real trash movies.
Yeah.
So I never know how much he's actually putting into a script.
I just don't know how it couldn't be intentional. It's just way too like on the nose almost.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
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 We'll give him credit.
I also love how quickly her husband is just like,
Instantly.
it's like it took no effort to seduce him.
No. There's
It's
like
the 80s, man. He has a stash. He can't help himself.
It's always the stash. He had that kind of one scene where she hit on him a little bit in the party or the introduction or
Yeah.
something. It's kind of like, no, I'm good.
He's
Yeah,
like,
I'm
I gotta
looking-
go find
I'm
my
looking
wife.
for my wife. Why?
So wild. I didn't fully understand the commune aspect. I was just like, there were a few things I didn't love. That between like we're going into this hippy dippy commune, and it was just so strange that she was looking at werewolf stuff, and then she's invited to this werewolf secret commune, but she's not a werewolf. And I was like, what? Why did they invite her?
Well, it was also a hippy dippy commune where they went regularly hunting.
Oh,
tried
so were
to
they
kill
just gonna
creatures.
hunt
So it's kinda
her?
like,
But then at the end, they
less
say we can't
hippie-ish.
kill her because she's too famous. And that's why they don't immediately kill her near the end. And I'm like, why is she here? I'm like, I don't understand. I just assumed she was bitten earlier on and that they were like waiting for a transformation, but then she's not bitten again until the anyway. It
Right.
doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I was just like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, I think it is a movie of its time and the things that were happening
Sure.
in the early 80s. So I think that's what, one of the things that clearly Dante is trying to say is that the media tells you what to believe. And so
Yeah.
her showing up at the end of the film and making sure that you see this happening is her way of saying, we've been lying to you,
Yeah.
and now you're seeing something real.
Part of what was going on too with that is her doctor.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of the late 70s, early 80s were full of
Psychoanalysts.
the misuse of psychology and doctors doing some weird ass shit, like locking people in hotel rooms for days and not letting them go to the bathroom and weird stuff. So I felt a little caught up in that concept, and she followed him out there, not necessarily knowing what she was, but hey, this is my doctor, and
Right.
he thinks I should go there, so off I go. So,
Right. And if the listener doesn't know, Eric's not speaking out of his asshole because your dad
my
was,
dad was a psychologist through the 70s and 80s.
right. And he hated all of this shit.
Oh yeah, it was not his forte. It was like, yeah, okay.
So I've got a little bit on the legacy of this amazing franchise. So like I said, in 1978, Gary Brandner is asked by his publisher to come up with The Howling 2.
These did not do well, apparently.
The Howling 2 did just fine. These books sold very well. These are my copies from a used bookstore in 1984 up in Bellingham called Aardvark Books.
Holy shit.
My very dear friend Jennifer will remember that. And so let's just kind of tie these books into the franchise, the movie franchise.
Okay.
Yeah, so The Howling, generally beloved in this horror community, has a Rotten Tomato score of 74%. The sequel, the book Return of the Howling, the movie Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf, purports to be, in the credits, based on Gary Brandner's novel, The Howling 2. And in fact, Brandner is listed as a screenwriter. In an interview, he says that his original script was written in a way that sounded to me kind of like the way Mike Flanagan's Dr. Sleep script was written, to be kind of a sequel to the book and to the movie. And so he had written a screenplay that followed the course of his Howling 2 novel, but using the surviving members of The Howling. Then he started getting script notes, production notes, and all sorts of stuff like this. Studio coming in and saying, well, it turns out we are not doing this. We're filming this in Mexico now. And he was like, oh, well, that's an easy switch. I can switch this to Mexico for some reason. And then they had an actor they really wanted in there. And so he wrote a new part for the actor. That actor dropped out.
Oh.
And they were going to be shooting in Yugoslavia instead. And pretty soon he just said, I actually have books to write, so I can't do this anymore. They brought in a second screenwriter, And now we have the cinematic classic starring Sybil Danning, and Christopher Lee, and Reb Brown that we are all familiar with. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 14%.
Woof. Oh.
Howling 3,
It's going to get better.
The Marsupials, is not based on the novel Howling 3, which is a prequel to The Howling. I will say this, having read all three of these books, The Howling, so-so. The Howling 2, fantastic. The Howling 3, the best of the bunch. This is not how the franchise goes with the films.
No.
The Howling 3, The Marsupials, is the last film in the franchise to be released theatrically. It has absolutely nothing to do with Brandner's third book, but the screen credits claim that it is based on the book The Howling 3 Echoes. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 15%.
Ooh, went up a little. Very little.
The Howling 4, The Original Nightmare, is from 1988. And it's actually a fairly faithful adaptation of the original Howling book.
Oh, my God.
Unfortunately, it is such a ghetto film. The acting is horrible, the writing is horrible, and the effects are horrible, and it is almost unwatchable. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 15%.
All right.
Cool.
Keeps going up.
Howling 5, The Rebirth.
Oh, my God.
God, I forgot there was a fifth one.
Comes out in 1990. Budget of $2 million and a Rotten Tomato score of 27%.
Hey.
I couldn't find this movie to even watch because it is out of print and has not been re-released since its 2000 DVD release. Is it? Seth Sherwood says that The Howling 5, The Rebirth is the best one other than the original.
Well, come on. Let's say the bar is not high for that.
Howling 6, The Freaks, is released in 1991 and is considered a horror/comedy. It claims to have minor elements from Brandon's third novel, but I found nothing in there that I recognized. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 18%. The Howling, New Moon Rising.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, my God.
Is the seventh film in the franchise from 1995. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 9%.
Hey.
And interestingly, though, it tries to connect all of the unconnected sequels together. And I was like, I got to appreciate this writer who's just sitting there going, what the fuck? Yeah, it's not good, but I appreciated that part of it. And we are all familiar with this shit franchise of films, but how many of you knew that there was The Howling Reborn in 2011? Of course, Seth Sherwood did.
We have our Howling master here.
The story is credited as being based on the novel The Howling 2, but really the only elements of The Howling in it are from the movie, which are not from the book.
I'm so lost.
So it's a very teen and high school focused storyline, and I thought it had a lot more in common with Michael J. Fox's Teen Wolf than the original Howling. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 17%. And then finally,
Jesus,
in January of 2020,
oh, my God.
the director of It and The Flash, Andy Muschietti, announced that he was making a full remake of The Howling for Netflix. And then in March of 2020, the world shut down completely. And this film seems to be one of the casualties of all that. There's been no news on this, and I have no idea if this is actually going forward. But that is the franchise, The Howling.
Wow.
Oh, my. That's a lot of howling.
That was a lot of howling.
Yeah, I gotta say, so for this podcast, I watched, air quotes, the rest of the franchise while I was doing laundry and vacuuming and all sorts of other things. And it was just a really depressing kind of thing. Well, I mean, the end credits of The Howling 2 are played over Sybil Danning tearing open her shirt like 6 times. So they just replay that scene because it is obviously the best scene in the movie.
Sure.
And so that was kind of sad. And Christopher Lee is in it, and you're like, oh man, I really want to love everything about it. And it is a direct sequel to the movie. The title is so stupid, but it is the brother of Karen is the protagonist in the film. He's found out that his sister is a werewolf.
Was.
Is.
Oh, okay. Dino die.
And then it just gets really, really bad. And unfortunately, I could not find the one that Seth considers the best in the franchise, except for number 1.
That's right.
But I will now take with a grain of salt everything Seth says. So, any final notes on this, you guys? Your feelings on this movie?
I mean, I enjoyed it the first time I saw it. And when you guys were like, oh, we have to watch The Howling. Why did we choose this? And I was like, I seem to remember liking it. So I don't know. I watched it and I was like, yeah, I still like it. It's got some issues, but I don't know. It's enjoyable enough. And I love the kind of TV station-y stuff in it. It's kind of fun and fast and
TV station.
I don't love that every single product in it has the word wolf on it. They've
Yeah,
got like the
that's kinda
wolf
funny.
chili and the
Uh-huh.
like every object on planet Earth in 1981 that had any kind of wolf or dog insignia was bought and put into this movie as a prop. So
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, why not?
I think that Landis did it better with just the music
Yeah.
in American Werewolf. And I like American
Yeah.
Werewolf a lot more than this, even though, I mean, there's a lot of humor in The Howling.
Mm.
It's very satirical. There's a lot of actual humor in American Werewolf.
Yeah.
But I'll
Yeah.
say this, even The Wolfen is a more interesting movie to me than The Howling is.
Yeah, I like The Wolfen. I think it's a neat film. This, like I said, I think this one's better than I thought it was.
Yeah.
When I originally saw it.
Mhm.
Being the movie collecting dork, I was, I don't own The Howling. Let's go ahead and buy it.
Did you buy the franchise box set?
No, I didn't see that one.
Oh.
No, the Blu-ray 4K restoration with all the cool shit in it, and it looks great. They did a
Yeah.
good job. It's worth. There are so few good. There are so few good werewolf films.
Yeah.
That I think this sits as one of the better. So you got 3 of the best right there in 1981, if
Right.
you count Wolven as a werewolf. But there's just not a franchise that it's a storyline that so few people seem to pull in and make something interesting out of for such an interesting idea.
Well,
And-
it's so weird that it did so well,
Mhm.
and then the sequel is just trash. They put no money into the sequel, and you're like,
Mm.
what is going on with this? Why wouldn't you trust this to spend some money on?
That's the 80s sequels. You remember? I mean, sequels didn't really kick into being fantastic. I mean, like the late 90s, they started to show up as
Have you ever heard of The Empire Strikes Back? Wrath of Khan? I mean,
Damn.
Star Trek 3, Star Trek 4, Star Trek 5.
I'm just saying, that can't be the reason. There's something that went on with the
I mean, like,
studio.
if you look at horror, okay,
Uh-oh.
look at,
We have an
okay.
insider's point of view.
Oh, wow.
No, audience participation is what it's all
Seth
about.
Sherwood.
There was one of the producers was like an independent producer that was on the original, and Warner Brothers hated him because he kept giving terrible notes, and he was the one that brought the book to Paramount, so he had a controlling share in the IP. So he was in charge of doing the first sequel, and Warner Brothers didn't want to give him any money without Joe Dante attached.
Oh.
And after the second one, which they just said, we'll give it like minimal theatrical and dump it to video. After it did terribly, this guy reverted the rights. He's the one that went on and made all the sequels without studio backing. So each
Oh.
one progressively had less money to work with and no stars and no nothing.
Oh, interesting. Bummer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Seth Sherwood, who will be a regular member on the podcast from now on.
There you go. I mean, despite Kelly's mentioning some of the greatest film franchises in all time, there were a lot of shitty sequels. How was Jaws 2 on? Or
I
the
like
Friday the
Jaws 2.
13th movies were up and down. The Halloween movies, up and down. The Hellraiser sequels, past a certain point, were just terrible.
Oh,
But-
I feel like I don't even know you anymore.
I was like, I like when he goes to space. It's fun.
Oh, I own all the Hellraiser movies. I have a problem with those. I love that series. Anyway, it's a good movie.
Eric's official review. It's a good movie. I will say, just to respond to something that Eric said. So you managed to get the HD DVD, Blu-ray, and I will say for our audience, anyone who wants to hunt down and watch The Howling again, It's really hard to get a hold of. In a good copy, the only way that I could rent it was on Amazon. It was $5, and it's the SD version.
Oh.
So for the love of Christ, just spend the $15. I just ran out of time. You guys have no excuse. So
Get a good
buy the
version.
good copy.
That's right.
Seriously.
Get a version.
We got a couple of minutes left. Anybody got anything else to say? Anybody in the audience? James? What the hell? Give me that booze back. You don't deserve that booze.
Any questions? How's your guys' lives going?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to know the climax of The Howling, in which Karen just cries and can't do anything and can't even shoot a guy or drive the car, and the guy who's been a side character for the entire movie has to show up to be the hero for her.
It's absolutely incredible. She's just like a walking washcloth through this entire film anyway, that I didn't have really high hopes for her. And then at least when the side character shows up, I'm like, oh, thank God you got a gun. You have bullets. And then it's so frustrating when she's in the car and he's driving and he has to like basically grab the gun and shoot off individual werewolves while driving because all she can do is sort of balance it in her hands like a hot broomstick. It's very upsetting, honestly. At least in the final shot, she actually does something where she's like, I'm going to wolf up and cry. Like, yeah, you go, girl. You take a stand. The 80s were tough.
It's
she raped or not, like in the book, Eddie clearly traumatized her. And she wasn't, because it was in a sex shop, she wasn't ready to have sex. And her husband was so not patient with her wanting to have sex again, which is why he ran off to the woods.
Yeah.
To bone a werewolf chick.
It was pretty, that's right. Like they spent so much of the film of her acting like it was a kind of rape response. And it was never fully clear to me, quite other than she saw the wolf and therefore she's traumatized. Exactly how that reality was, but that makes a lot of sense. It's really an interesting plot point. So, ugh.
I would say let's not judge her husband too harshly.
She remained married to that man till he died of cancer.
A man has needs.
Kelly,
Fire.
My mom is listening to this podcast. Could you
Mom.
just be nice?
She expects nothing less from me.
It's true.
If she's listened regularly, she knows
270 episodes. She's got to figured me out by now.
We have a question from the back as well.
So what is your favorite Joe Dante film?
Ooh.
Well, I would put Gremlins 2 way above this. I put Gremlins 2
so
above
good.
Gremlins. I love Matinee. I love Inner Space. I think that he's made some really spectacular films, and this film is important in his career because Spielberg sees this and says this is the guy that needs to direct Gremlins. So I'm not taking anything away from this film. I think there's a lot to like in this, and it's all a part of that sleaziness that Hollywood was really into in the early 80s, and I really appreciate that kind of stuff. I just think that story-wise, it doesn't really work for me. And part of this is what we were just talking about. The female protagonist is this newscaster. She's already 10 times more interesting than the protagonist in the book, who is a housewife and then spends most of the time needing to be rescued at various scenes. In this, she has a little bit of
agency.
Sure, of agency or just she's trying to figure out. There's you can tell that she is a investigative reporter because she's curious. That's what I want. She's got some curiosity at what's going on. Her husband seems to be like uninterested in the fact that there's this weird howling going on every single night, and he's like, it's probably the wind.
He's like, what are you going on about, woman?
Sounds like
exactly.
Go back to your sleeping ways.
So there's just, it needs a nudge in another direction to make it a little more, I don't know, realistic. But then I'm second guessing what Joe Dante wanted to do. I don't think he cared about the werewolf aspect that much. I think he really wanted to make a satirical film about the news. Self-help therapy, communes, things like that. And he was able to get, I'm sure he and John Sayles over a couple of drinks were like, it'd be great. Let's toss out all of this shit and do this. And then, I don't know. I fucking love John Sayles is my problem. So it's like, I don't want to second guess him because I think he's brilliant.
I'm going to say, since Kelly took this and turned it into a whole Howling answer, we're almost out of time. So we need to answer quick, like if you want to say your favorite Joe Dante film.
Oh, no, it's okay.
You tell me.
I loved his work with
Fuck Joe Dante.
Hawaii
Whoa.
Five-0. No, I mean,
Jesus, Vanessa, calm down.
If you guys like our podcast, you should listen to the one where I talk about Gremlins too, because that was a lot of fun. No,
that was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. But yeah, I think Gremlins 2 is probably my favorite. But anyway.
Real quick, I'll say Gremlins, and for a very weird reason. Gremlins, when it first came out, I was the right age, and the advertising was very much cute little. And then I go to see this movie, and she throws this creature in a microwave and blows his ass up.
Oh my God. I never looked at
What
microwaves
in the
again.
hell am I watching? And I loved that. So I think that's part of the reason I like that one so much. Even though Gremlins 2 is more entertaining. Gremlins is...
It's a Warner Brothers cartoon.
Hit my ass. Okay.
All right, guys. So we are out of time. Thank you so much for coming. That's Vanessa over there.
Hi. Bye.
That's Eric. I'm Kelly. Strange Eons Radio. Also, check out KCYZ Nerd Radio. So,
oh my God.
All right,
Stop
guys.
advertising other podcasts on our podcast.
That's it. We'll see you in 7 short days, and we are talking about something else. See you next Thursday.
Spiders.
Transportation and other considerations for Strange Eons Radio produced by Pan Am Airlines. When you think of traveling, think of Pan Am. You can't beat the experience. Guests of Strange Eons Radio stay at Econo Lodge Everett. It's an easy stop on the road, if you know what we mean. Strange Eons Radio is recorded live in front of a studio audience. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a positive review on your favorite podcast app. Sit, Ubu, sit.
I was like, my heart, I am literally hurting right now.